This is the very first Patreon Q&A, meaning if you're a patron, if you're an investor in this channel, links below if you want to sign up, you get to ask questions, and we're going to do these on a monthly basis, maybe even bi-weekly, depends how many patrons we have, how many questions come up. I'm happy to answer all of these. We have 12 questions from those who support the channel, and we'll be doing one again very soon, so thank you everyone for submitting these questions, because they not only, affect you on a personal level, but as we know, no question is a dumb question, because someone else is definitely thinking the same thing, and is most likely no such thing as a dumb question, because what you're curious about, what the question you have, someone else most likely has it as well. We're different in many ways, but geez, we're alike in a lot too. So these questions, I think you'll like them. So question number 1 from Dominic. Thank you so much for your question. Hey Scott, interested to learn about your work with schools and children. Any takeaways from the field regarding mental health, program successes, and gaps? What makes your work rewarding? Awesome question, and thank you so much. Okay, please go to depression2expression.com, new website. Have to give a shout out to David Farley for making this happen. So that's where schools and corporations can book me for talks. And let me tell you, my talks are kick-ass. Just going to be cocky about it. Because here's what I want to answer in this question, Dominic, is the program successes or gaps. So a lot of schools, at least in Toronto and probably all over the world, they hire these speakers, they implement these programs that are more about the problems that exist outside. There's too much stigma out there. It's hard to get help, right? There's not enough money being put into mental health awareness and stigma reduction. There is the dialogue of, hey, it's okay to not be okay, just be yourself, right? But there's not enough concrete tools given to these kids. They're protecting these kids. They're doing a disservice to youth by not telling them exactly what's out there and what to expect. Not telling them that life's hard, suffering is inevitable, and you're going to need some tools to get through it, because I don't envy youth today. It is very difficult with technology and social media and the pressures they have to go through, and they're not prepared. They are not prepared, because you look at the suicide rates, you look at the rates of depression and anxiety among youth, it's incredible. And for lack of a better word, it's insane. And schools and they don't know what to do. So they're hiring these anti-stigma campaigns, and I could name a few, but I don't want to do that, because they do have their place in the world and in schools, but for the most part, youth need tools. Youth need things that are actually tangible, that they can use right when a speaker leaves the school, and that's not what's happening. They need to be equipped, right, to face the world, and they're drowning. And that's where the gap is. Hence why I exist, Depression to Expression, because I'm going to sound full of myself. I'm giving youth these tools. And there are some real basic ones that can make a world of difference. And just on the channel, a simple perspective, a simple CBT tool like that fits in your back pocket. You can use it when you need to. So that's what's needed in schools. Tools, which I provide. Haha, I just winked. What makes your work rewarding? Witnessing change. That's it. You want to see change, witnessing people taking responsibility for their actions and not blaming others, not blaming people not accepting them. And that's going to be another video on itself, because I have a little awareness and stigma rant to go through. But I appreciate your question. Yeah, rewarding, it's seeing positive change in people and learning more for myself, learning about people's stories and disagreeing with other people. That's a big one. Okay, next question from Anna. Hello, Anna. Nice to hear from you. Always a large contributor on the channel here. Do you still use the 5-minute journal? How does it affect you? I do still use the 5-minute journal, but not as much as I used to. For those of you who don't know what the 5-minute journal is, it's a journal. I did some giveaways, actually, for those on Patreon, and 5 of them received a journal. And what you do is in the morning, you write down 3 things you're grateful for, and they give you a cool little mantra and a cool quote, and then you write down an affirmation for the day, and then 3 things you're looking forward to for the day. Very, routine. Every morning, do the same thing, list things that you're grateful for and all that. And then at the end of the day, before you go to bed, you write down 3 amazing things that happened that day. And I absolutely love that because I did a video called Redefining Amazing. It's all on the channel. And it makes you really think about, even if you had a crappy day, force yourself to think about 3 amazing things that happened. Well, I took the subway and it wasn't delayed. That's amazing in Toronto if you get a subway that's not delayed. It forces you to think of these things. So I use the 5-minute journal sometimes, but what I regularly do now, Anna, is I journal. And really every morning I write down 5 things I'm grateful for, but then keeping a live journal. That's really important to me, and writing down just what's going on in the day, thoughts, feelings, plans, just keeping my internal dialogue expressed on paper. It's really important for my mental health. Thank you for your question. Jacob asks, any tips on how to get more comfortable with silence in social situations? I find myself being quite comfortable when the person I'm with is a family member or friend, but if it's someone I don't know quite well, I get worried they'll think I'm boring to be around. I've tried to be present to the silence and let go, but it's much easier said than done. Hey, so all the power to you for actually recognizing this and taking a step, being present in that silence, because Jacob, you're definitely not alone in this one. It's called awkward silence for a reason. But what I find, and I put pressure on myself like this, is why do we always have to be the one to break the silence? Why do we have to give ourselves permission to feel that awkwardness and to put pressure to be the one who breaks that silence? Why is it always on us, right? Put it on the other person. There is absolutely an uncomfortable feeling when you meet someone new if there's silence, right? Because of course, going on dates, you have an awkward silence with someone that you just met. It's like, oh my God, we've met for 10 minutes and we already don't know what to talk about. We're already struggling for conversation. And that's happened to me, I'm not going to say many times, but sometimes they just don't feel the Scott vibe in conversation. Totally cool. I'm a weird dude. But in your scenario, of course, family member, close friend, silence is welcome. You feel comfortable. It's totally normal to feel uncomfortable when there's that silence with someone newer that you don't quite know. So I'd say be prepared to come with questions. Be prepared to have some topics on hand that you can talk about and go back and forth. Something that you can talk about that actually has some dialogue and some back and forth, so you're not only listening. But in my experience, and some advice for you, is come with questions. Not just topics, come with questions. People love talking about themselves most of the time. So come with questions. Oh, where do you work? Oh yeah, how long have you been doing that for? Oh, what about before that? And did you like it? How about, okay, so if you could do anything, are you happy where you are? If you could do anything in the world, what would it be? Right? Like, ask these questions that gets people's minds going, and you'll be surprised how the silence really dissipates and the uncomfortableness will be gone. You get to know the person a little more, and then you be comfortable with the silence there. Jenny asks, I'm curious to know how international this community is. From which countries are their subscribers from? Jenny, thank you so much for your question. Everywhere. Everywhere. Now, mostly, like the majority, it goes US, the UK, Canada, and then India. Okay? That's the majority. I think India, last time I checked at the metrics, it was about 9% of the audience is from India. And then, bits and pieces all over the world. As you could see in the comments, if I just ask, hey, where's everyone from? We actually did a video, question of the day video, where everyone said where they were from. And all over Europe, we're talking Spain, lots from Germany, Switzerland, Austria, all over the place. Again, lots in Australia as well. But US, Canada, UK, India, those are the big 4 right there. Thanks for your question, Jenny. It's a very international audience because, as we know, depression, anxiety, mental illness knows no borders, although it's definitely more common in some countries than others. More on that later. Okay, next question, Glyn, Glyn. Nice to hear from you, my friend. This question is mental health essentially linked to contentment? We've talked about that before. Does contentment have a physiological effect on the brain, or do we experience contentment because of a physiological reaction? Awesome question. This is almost a chicken or the egg question. The egg, you know what I mean? Like, do you face a challenge, and then because you face this challenge, now you're happy and content? Or you're first happy and content, and that gives you that drive and will to then face challenge? And I think it's both ways, but from what I hear, and I've been thinking about that too, Glenn, is I think the challenge... Actually, let me rephrase that. Okay, that's a really good question. Some people are just born with a little more positive energy, and they have positive neurons just flying everywhere. It doesn't matter what they do, they are somehow content in all their decisions and their life a lot of the time. Like, I know people, it seems like the worst job, and they don't even like their job. And I find it amazing that people can just do a 9-to-5 thing, not really think about it that much, they do it, but they're content with it. Yeah, I get a paycheck, and, I'm making money, and that means I can afford to live, and yeah, it's going pretty well, and yeah, I'm happy. Like, holy crap, but you don't like your job, and you're doing nothing. And I just find it amazing. But again, they're content already. I think for me, I need to work a lot harder with that contentment, meaning that I don't think it comes first for me. That it's a physiological reaction to what I'm doing in my life. Meaning that I need to solve some problems, I need to overcome some challenges, I need to help some people, I need to learn new things, I need to meditate on life a little bit, and then there's that reaction of contentment because I'm doing something meaningful with my life. That's why I get content. That's when I feel content, when I know I'm making a positive difference in my life and the life of others. So for me, it takes hard work. For others, sometimes it's just, innate. But that's a really amazing question. Thanks, Glenn. Diana asks, I'm curious about, thank you for your question, Diana. What quick advice, quick in capital letters, advice would you give to someone to feel more confidence in overwhelming situations? Well, that's a great question. So, Jordan Peterson came out with this book called 12 Rules for Life. If you don't know Jordan Peterson, I'd highly recommend you check out his channel. And as you know, we did the interview with Michaela Peterson. So great of her to come on this channel and take time to do that. I'm just very grateful for that. But one of the rules was sit straight with your shoulders back. And I was like, man, he took that from me. I've been preaching that for years. The confidence does not only come from the mind and your thinking about these situations. It comes from how you hold your body, how you hold yourself in these situations. So Diana, some really quick advice would be, in these situations, look confident. And it could be what you're wearing as well. Dress nice, dress appropriately, and look confident, meaning chin up, eye contact, feel like you own the world, shoulders back, back straight, great posture. If you're like this and you feel overwhelmed and you're not confident, well, look at me. How could I be confident talking to someone like this? But shoulders back, like you're there for a reason. You're there for, you have a purpose in that social circle, and you have something to say and something to contribute, right? Hold your body the way that you want to be perceived. Shoulders back, back straight. Copyright Scott St. Marie, not Jordan Peterson. Next question is from Sarah, and Sarah, if you don't mind, I'm just going to squish the paragraph into a little shorter sentence here. She had a conversation recently about deserving punishment as a consequence. So something happened where she said that she deserved what she got. She missed this band after a concert, meeting a band, lost a poster. She felt very sick and humiliated. And now she's saying, well, how do I change my thinking? How do I learn not to talk myself down or talk down to myself and be so hard on myself? It doesn't seem possible. Being reckless one time doesn't make you a bad person, and you don't deserve bad things just because of that. So it's about negative self-talk. Well, that's a great question. Okay. Some people do bad things, and mess up, and punishment and bad things happening as an effect of that, it's good. It's good that something bad happened. You did deserve it. Maybe not in that scenario, but man, I mess up, and you steal from a company, you swear at your boss, you don't do your work, you get fired. Well, you deserved it. Something bad happened to you, being a bad person, being a bad employee, being a bad husband or father. Consequences will happen. Consequence is how we learn. Consequence is how children learn, right? You put your hand on the stove, you burn it, you're not going to do it again. So in a way, Sarah, punishment is a good thing. Now, if you're learning from these mistakes, that's amazing. If you keep punishing yourself over and over, but you keep making the same mistake, well, let's question that a little bit as to why that keeps happening. But as far as the negative self-talk, and if this is the first time this has happened, or this certain scenario, or there's just multiple mistakes you're making in different scenarios, that's good. That means you're learning. That means you're doing new things. I love failure, and I love making mistakes as long as you learn from it. So I'd just like to leave you with, one note here, and that is you don't have to get it right the first time. You don't have to get it right the first time. That's it. That can be your self-talk afterwards. It's like, yeah, I messed up, but I don't have to get it right the first time. Next time, I'll know what to do. Next time, I've learned from this scenario. Next time, I'll do better. You can look for that improvement in yourself the next time a similar scenario happens. And right when you notice, hey, this was similar to last time, and I'm going to go this way instead of down the same way last time. I'm going to make a new path this time. Man, that's when you're on fire. That's what life's about. Self-improvement, learning from your mistakes, learning new things, and the self-talk, the negative self-talk, there's going to be no need for it. But as far as deserving punishment, sure, it's good. And we have another question from Kathy. Kathy says, does a specific diet help with depression and anxiety? I'm asking because in your thank you video, you mentioned that half a cup of coffee was your limit before noon. Otherwise, it fueled your anxiety. Thank you so much, Kathy. Kathy, there's a lot about diet and depression and anxiety. A lot. Caffeine, for sure a trigger for me. For sure. More, not recently actually. I can have a cup of coffee, but I never drink after noon. Just not even because of the anxiety part, but going to bed. Like, I can't drink it after noon. Diet and depression. What you'll find is inflammatory foods like anything dairy, wheat, and gluten with maybe a minuscule effect on inflammation, that can make a huge difference with diet and depression. Now, maybe I don't even have to answer this question more just because, we've had Michaela on the channel talking about her diet of meat, and her dad, Jordan Peterson, his diet of meat, and her mom's diet of meat, and her husband's diet of, I believe it was meat and veggies now, or just cutting out gluten and dairy. So there's a lot of work to be done, but there's so much personal testimony about diet and mental health. Like, that should be, before people take antidepressants, unless it's a real severe case and they're in need of something quick, even though antidepressants like 6 to 8 weeks for them to take effect, experiment with diet. Get rid of dairy. Get rid of refined sugar. Get rid of gluten. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. Our friend Anonymous asks, any advice on agoraphobia? Yes. This would be a great question on its own, too, but really quickly. You know how people are allergic to peanuts? They've done some small exposure, and eventually they can eat like a whole peanut, and then they can eat a damn O. Henry bar after a few months, and they give a minuscule little piece of peanut every day, and then eventually they give them maybe a quarter of one, and then a half of one, and then 3/4 of one, and then a full peanut, and then a peanut and a half, and then 2 peanuts, and eventually their body gets used to peanuts again, what they're allergic to, just by small exposures to this let's call it a toxin, right? As far as agoraphobia goes, it's kind of the fear of public places and social situations. The more extreme case of social anxiety, really, that people can be housebound their whole lives and for years. And there's a lot going on, Anonymous, with virtual reality and actually getting this perfect and really in-depth experience where people can put it on and they have the audio and it's like they're walking down, Google Street View. Or for people with social anxiety or claustrophobia, they put the VR headset on and they walk into an elevator, right? And it's amazing. And these are new tests, but that's one different kind of treatment. The other one's exposure therapy, where I remember talking to my family doctor, and she had done a family doctor, yes, someone who had not left their house for a few years, and then finally, stepped onto their porch, and then was able to barbecue on their porch, made it outside their front yard to cut the grass, like these minor things within their property. And this was combined with medication, though, an anti-anxiety medication. But that was like a huge success story I heard from my doctor. I'm going to just say the word trust. And that's a big thing with anxiety. And having someone to trust. Having something to trust. Meaning, people with anxiety, and this was from Julia Christina, we had a chat about this, and it's so true. The anxiety antidote as trust. People are anxious because, well, they don't trust anyone in a social situation. So let's say, my friend, if you were to go out in public and you have a panic attack, well, who can you trust? You have nothing to lean on. You're all alone. So if you have a panic attack, holy geez, nothing to fall on. You don't trust anyone you're with. All right? You don't trust then your coping tools as well. That, okay, so worst case scenario, if I have a panic attack, well, my mom's with me. She knows exactly what to do. We can get the heck out of there. Well, if I'm alone and I have a panic attack, well, I know exactly what to do because I have my breathing techniques. I have my audio with me, which calms me down. I have a little 30-second this panic attack, calm down meditation, mindfulness practice that I do. I have different exercises I can do. I have breathing exercises, right? It's about trust. And that's a big part of social anxiety in general. So exposure therapy is one, and just think of that word trust. The next question we have, I'm going to keep anonymous. I'm not sure if that was a request, but it's a pretty personal question here. Our friend comes from an alcoholic home. Her dad drinks, and she's afraid and has a lot of guilt and anxiety about becoming and having behaviors like her abusive alcoholic father. She would never hurt anyone intentionally, but it's hard looking past when people see me as something I'm not. People seeing her like her alcoholic father, she says. So, that's a great question. And I'm sorry, I am sorry that you have to deal with that. And it's not easy, and I've never experienced that, so I'm not going to pretend like I understand. But what you've written here is called self-awareness. And let me tell you something. Just you being aware that I don't want to become like my father, just so you know that, or just you knowing that, how could you possibly be like him? Because now that you know it, you're going to do everything you can to not go down that path, right? If you were totally oblivious and you didn't have that thought of becoming like your father, if you're going down the exact same path as he did, and drinking and not doing things that are healthy for, mental health and physical health, well, of course you're going to go down that road. You know nothing else, and you're not trying to create your own path. You saying this, you already know you don't want to go down that path. You're already starting your own life's journey and not going near that at all. Now, there's that guilt that you're going to be like him. I'd say the perspective is you're already not. You're already not. You already have the wisdom to know that that's not where you want to go, right? It's not like someone's pushing you into that already. No one's forcing you to drink in these ways. You already have the knowledge and the insight, that wisdom to not go down that path. And I applaud you for seeing that for what it is. So you ask for a perspective. There it is. Give yourself a pat on the back knowing that, okay, I am self-aware. I'm not going to go down that path because I know what it looks like. I know where it leads, and that's not my future. Done. Second last question here we have from our friend Jeff. Jeff asks, what are your thoughts from your family about your decision to be so open? Sorry about that. What are your thoughts from your family about your decision to be so open about your mental health? About you becoming a key leader in change, thank you, in your mental health community. Did they have fear or reservation about you sharing so much about yourself and association by them? Well, Jeff, that's a great question. I really thank you for it. I don't think any family... I can't say that. Because my family knows that the videos and what I'm doing now offline is helping so many people, how could they be embarrassed by me putting my family name out there? As parents, you want to protect your family name. You did a hell of a job raising your kids. Sleepless nights, stress, anxiety, worry, unconditional love. You want to see them protect that name and be successful in their future. And by them knowing how many people my videos have helped, they honestly are so proud and supportive of what I'm doing that I obviously couldn't ask for a more supportive family and more supportive parents. They're with me every step of the way. Every step. And my grandma, both my grandparents, my dad's grandma and my mom's grandma, both suffered from depression, and they know full well what it's like. And, we support each other all the way through. I'm very close with my family, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. Not even close to here. I wouldn't even know if I would be here. So they are completely fearless in supporting me. No matter what I do, the benefits there. I don't know if they're on board with, when I first started YouTube, there was some swearing and not anger, but some real energy in there. And I still have it, but in different ways. My mom was always like, well, Scott, you don't really need to swear. I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. The message needs to get out there. I need to tell people what the fuck I feel. So she didn't really like that, and she still doesn't, but she still supports me and my dad and Paul and Mark and Craig and Catherine. Thank you all so much. Our last question is from Laura. Laura, thank you very much for your question here. I guess my question for you is, what are your go-to techniques when you're starting to feel anxious? What really seems to help calm your nerves? Well, Laura, I thank you for your question again, and let's go. Meditation. All right, calm down, come back to the breath if I can. Now, sometimes, the thoughts are racing so much and there's so much jitteriness and nervous energy in the body that we shake it out. You already know, guys. You already know. I do one of these. Right? I'll go to the gym. I'll lift weights. Like, when the anxiety is too much, you can't sit down. That's the last thing your body and mind want. That's torture for the mind and body to sit still and try to calm down, right? So my go-tos would be meditation depending on the kind of anxiety, right? If I need to organize my thoughts more, it's more meditation. If I just want to explode, and my body is just in a rush of energy and anxious energy, I have to exercise and vibrate and do that dynamic meditation all us crazy people do. And the other thing, I have to admit it, again, this was a previous video. What's the website? Old Time Radio, Golden Radio. It's in an older video, but it's a website with all these 1950s radio shows, and from comedy to suspense to thriller to drama to mystery, and just listening to old time radio, and then swing, big band music, Andrew Sisters, Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, just like old time music calms my nerves. And I know people from the 50s are like, it wasn't really maybe they'll admit that it was a simpler time, but for me, it just brings me back to some some simplistic emotion, some simplistic way to feel, and it just calms me down. Music does wonders for me. So that's it, Laura. Those are my go-tos, and thank you very much for your question. This has been Scott from Depression to Expression. I'd like to thank all of the patrons who submitted their questions. I hope my answers were sufficient. I really appreciate the gesture, first of all, of everyone investing in the channel monthly. Secondly, participating in this Patreon Q&A. For all those viewers, those who are watching right now, let me know if you'd like more Patreon Q&As, because I think this is very beneficial for everyone. And, I think my answers were kick-ass. So thank you everyone for watching. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, because YouTube is stupid and demonetizes good channels, please check out the links below if you have $1. All patrons, thank you as well. Thank you for investing in me and having faith in what I do here and what we all do, spreading that good word of fearless expression. Stay strong. Keep being you. Talk to you soon.